Right, I know it's dark, but I'll show you this actually working in real life. So I'm pushing the switch now. There you go. There's the connection. It's going through my Ethernet cable. Now I've got a database set up, so if it's not a request that's been put in by a PHP script into the database, it will read it and say, well, you're not supposed to be on. So within a minute it will turn itself back off. Now this is because I've got a slight issue between PHP and the MySQL. So you won't have this issue. It's only because I've set it up to, if the power goes out, it basically carries on from where it leaves off. That's the whole point of having a database. But for some reason, where I haven't used it in so long, the date was all wrong and it might need a restart. So that should sort it out. So normally what I'd do is use a web page to control the switches. So where that failed because of the recent issue, so you notice it's just gone off, and that's because of the database. So within a minute it's like, well, you should be off, you're not programmed to be on. It's good redundancy. So say you have a power out, within a minute you know that it's gonna, if it's supposed to be on, turn on, if it's supposed to be off, it'll turn off. Now yeah. So as I was saying, hopefully by restarting it that would sort that issue out, but you won't have that issue. I've only set that up. This is the reason I did the Python menu that does command line through the menu, so that you'd have a way of controlling it even if your PHP or MySQL would fail. So what you might want to do is put in some options and put it on a switch. So if it's on one mode, like if you put a switch into an input, you know, via a plup or pull down resistor or whatever, basically you can have a different mode if you program a switch into it, so that the logic would see that, for example, you're in bypass mode. When it's in bypass mode, you could obviously have it forget whatever's in the database and just do what basically Python that tells it to do. Now if it's not in bypass mode, you could get it to read from the database, and depending on the database settings then it would update accordingly. That's probably how the best way to do it, I would imagine, because if you're building it for something where you need something to stay on or you need something to stay off and you don't want to worry about if a database is going to come along, it's nice to have that there. But if it fails, you're going to want to switch, so that you can just flip a switch and it's in a different mode entirely while you work out bugs, like if it is a time issue or a date issue or an update, it needs an update, you know, something like that. It's always good to have that switch there so that you can carry on and it doesn't affect things, it doesn't impact you basically in a big way. So say like you need a light that's on and it's running through your relay, you're going to want to have access to that, whether your program's working okay or whether your database is up and running or not. You know, there's so much to go wrong in experimental stages of things, so it's just a thought that, you know, you need to use one of your pins as an input, put a switch on it and a resistor obviously, and use that and put that in your code so that basically you can have different modes on it. I think this is how your Pineapple works, the Wi-Fi Pineapple that Hack5 promote. I think that's how they work with their switches. They just got basically an input on the Raspberry Pi and it reads it basically to say on the boot up. Normally they're called dip switches, but you know, just a thought. But I'll show you one more time. There you go, there's the other switch. So I'll be working on trying to get that to read from the database like it should. I think it's not a reading issue, I think it might be a write issue. So when the PHP is supposed to update the database, I'm not 100% sure if that's working. It was working at some point, but I haven't used it in so long. It definitely needs tweaking. But other than that, it does run perfect and it is reliable. Just a tip out there, if you are using database, I know people don't recommend it because of read write and all that, but don't worry, it's just an experiment. So for those out there who wants to mess with database, it's always good to have redundancy, it's always good to have a pin, as I've said a couple of times now, just so you can set up different modes. It's helpful that way. But yeah, thank you for watching.